He knew someone was watching, so he left a camera running before he died. The church was quiet when they found him slumped over his desk. Bible still open, coffee cold beside his hand. At first, they called it a heart attack. No signs of struggle, no note, just silence. But 3 days later, a flash drive arrived at the sheriff's office. No sender, no label, just footage. It came from a hidden camera, tucked behind the cross in the pastor's office. The video started like any other counseling session, until a familiar voice confessed something unholy, something criminal, something that couldn't be ignored. Pastor Elijah didn't die of natural causes. He died knowing too much, and he made sure the truth wouldn't die with him, because before his final breath, he pressed record, and what that footage revealed would tear an entire church apart. Pastor Elijah Greene wasn't perfect, but he was respected. For over 18 years, he led Trinity Fellowship Church through storms, both literal and spiritual. He counseled broken marriages, fed the homeless, buried children, and baptized newborns. To the congregation, he was more than a man of God. He was a moral compass, a quiet protector. But behind the pulpit, Elijah had grown tired. Tired of secrets whispered in the pews. Tired of sins confessed but never corrected. Tired of looking the other way. The tension started when church treasurer Jacob Milner, charming, wealthy, and too generous, began controlling more than just the offering plate. Elijah noticed money going missing and people staying silent. Even his assistant, Rachel, began avoiding eye contact when asked simple questions. Elijah didn't accuse anyone. Instead, he bought a hidden camera, and began recording every conversation in his office. What he caught on film wasn't just theft, it was something darker, something that no sermon could fix, something that would cost him his life. It began with locked doors. Elijah would arrive early for prayer, only to find his office bolted shut despite no one having a reason to be there overnight. Then came the misplaced tithing reports, missing receipts, ledger entries that didn't add up. When he asked Jacob, the treasurer just laughed. Probably a clerical error, pastor, but the warmth in his eyes was gone. One Sunday, Elijah noticed Rachel, the loyal assistant who once shared devotionals over coffee, avoiding his gaze. She dropped a file on his desk, trembling. Inside was a donation receipt signed by a woman who had died months earlier. That night, Elijah installed the camera. Over the next few weeks, he captured nervous whispers behind his door. Secret meetings after choir practice, Jacob handing envelopes to men Elijah had never seen in service. The church still sang hymns, still bowed their heads, but behind stained glass, something was rotting, and Elijah knew, if he spoke up too soon, he might never speak again. Elijah thought the corruption ended with money, but the footage told another story. Late one night, he reviewed a clip that made his hands shake. It wasn't just Jacob stealing, it was Rachel, his trusted assistant, with him, whispering about a teenager named Cole, a runaway, a boy who had confided in Elijah weeks earlier during counseling, and then vanished. In the video, Jacob handed Rachel an envelope and said, "Keep it quiet, we can't have him coming back." Rachel hesitated. Elijah's starting to ask questions. Jacob smiled. Then maybe Elijah needs a reminder of who runs this church. Elijah stopped the recording. The room was silent except for the sound of his own breath. A boy was missing. The people he trusted most were involved. And now they were talking about silencing him. He realized too late. This wasn't about money, it was about power, and people were willing to kill to keep it. The night before his death, Pastor Elijah stayed late at the church. Rain tapped against the stained glass windows as he copied footage from the hidden camera onto a flash drive. He placed it inside a plain envelope, sealed it, and scribbled a note. "Deliver to Sheriff Cole if anything happens to me." He tucked the envelope into his coat pocket, then turned off the lights. But someone was already waiting. Tot security. Footage later retrieved from the hallway shows a shadow slipping into Elijah's office. Just after 11:17 p.m., a figure in dark clothing, face obscured by a hoodie, walks in. 12 minutes later, the door opens again. The figure walks out. Elijah never followed. When the custodian found him early the next morning, his Bible was open to Proverbs 21:15. When justice is done, it brings joy to the righteous, but terror to evildoers. The flash drive in his pocket was gone, but Elijah had made a copy, and 3 days later, that second copy arrived in Markton, the sheriff's desk. What they saw on that footage led to immediate arrests, national headlines, and a manhunt for the missing boy who had become the story's dark center. Elijah didn't live to see justice, but he'd already started it. The footage shook the town to its core. Jacob Milner was arrested for obstruction, embezzlement, and suspected involvement in Cole's disappearance. Rachel turned herself in days later, tearfully admitting she was paid to stay silent. But the real blow was to the congregation, hundreds who had trusted, prayed, and followed blindly, never suspecting the rot behind the sermons. At Elijah's memorial, there were no polished eulogies, just a silence so heavy it felt sacred. His daughter Naomi stood up, clutching the journal he left behind. "My father died trying to protect a truth most people would have ignored. He didn't die a hero because he wanted to. He did it because no one else would." Weeks later, Cole was found in a motel 2 states away, alive, shaken, and ready to speak. His testimony confirmed everything Elijah had feared: the exploitation, the hush money, the system that enabled it. In court, the judge's voice trembled. As he delivered the sentence, it was the quiet courage of one man that forced this truth into the light. May we never again mistake silence for peace. The church reopened under new leadership, but Elijah's pulpit remained untouched, left empty, not out of fear but as a reminder: truth has a cost, and someone, somewhere, always pays it. Pastor Elijah died with no applause, no farewell, no warning. But in the quiet that followed his final breath, he spoke louder than any sermon ever could. He could have turned away like so many before him, but he chose the cost of truth over the comfort of silence, not because he was fearless, but because he knew real faith doesn't live behind locked doors and hushed voices. It lives in risk, in sacrifice, in the decision to press record. When everything inside you says run, though he didn't survive to see the truth win, the truth remembered him. Because sometimes, the bravest thing a person can do is leave behind proof that evil wore a smile, and pray that someone listens.